Raymond Lee Smith, prisoner number 38602-133, age 39, black male, murdered by Thomas Silverstein on 9/27/1982, better known as Cadillac Smith. This one murder changed the entire Federal Bureau of Prisons. But who was Cadillac Smith, and how did his murder change history? I'll start by telling you about the impact of the murder. At the time in 1982, there was a race war going on in the federal prison system between the largest group of black convicts, collectively known as the DC Blacks, and the Aryan Brotherhood, a white prison gang. It all started in 1981. Thomas Silverstein and Fountain, two ABs, attacked and strangled black convict Robert Chappelle in the control unit of USP Marion. The control unit at Marion was H unit. So if I say H unit, I mean the control unit. Then in 1982, Silverstein and Fountain killed Raymond Cadillac Smith, a friend of Chappelle's, who was probably going to kill the two men in revenge. Silverstein and Fountain stabbed Smith 67 times and then dragged his bloody corpse up and down the range so that the other prisoners who were locked in their cells could see what happens to those who cross the ABs. By now, the race war was full on and nobody was safe. Because of the heightened tension in Marion and H unit in particular, Silverstein felt picked on. He felt Merle Klutz, a correctional officer, was the one who caused him the most grief. So he stewed on the issue for months. He became obsessed with Officer Klutz. Finally, he was able to free himself from restraints while on the way to the shower and was given a homemade knife by one of the other prisoners. He used it to stab Officer Klutz over 40 times. That's 40 times. The prison was locked down for a few hours. Since a lockdown is something that causes prisoners stress, it was decided to go back to normal operations as soon as possible. No sooner had normal operations resumed than Fountain murdered another correctional officer in H unit by the name of Robert Hoffman. The entire prison was locked down, and that would not change for over 20 years. I was told by guards who was there at the time that the administration decided to resume normal operations again because the staff of the prison threatened to walk out if they had gone back to normal operations. They said that they were going to do it. They were just going to go back to normal operations. And the staff said, "We're done. We're out of here." And I don't blame them. If you go back to normal operations, they murder another one of us, who's next, right? A better option than being stabbed 50 or 60 times, better to be alive and get a new job than die, because the warden wants to make sure some of the prisoners don't have any stress for being locked down, right? According to David Hale, a Marion correctional officer who was there at the time, reprisals followed this last two murders of the guards. He claimed that 50 or more prisoners were beaten. I can tell you that the staff had been issued hickory axe handles. If they used those to beat a man, then it was no love taps he received. Even the 36-inch long riot batons we had in the late 80s were nothing compared to a hickory axe handle. For 20 years, the DC Blacks and the ABs killed one another in a series of revenge murders. At some point in the mid-1990s, the Hispanic prison gang, the Serenos, became involved in killing DC Black members. At about the same time, the DC Blacks also started to kill a few non-affiliated African American convicts. At USP Marion, we got most of the perpetrators of these murders in an attempt to tamp down the violence in the rest of the federal system. For the most part, it worked. I know it worked because when we changed missions and we let those guys back out into the general population in other prisons, they were soon killed or were killing others over past grievances. The Supermax model, based on USP Marion, has been exported worldwide. The ADX in Florence, Colorado was special built for the purpose of being a Supermax prison and can incorporate the lessons that we learned at Marion in its layout. the conditions at Marion for the convict was brutal. In 1987, Amnesty International said that there is hardly a rule in the United Nations Standards minimum rules for the treatment of prisoners that is not infringed on in some way at USP Marion. Federal Bureau of Prisons Director Norman Carlson told the San Francisco Chronicle in 1998 the two men who killed the guards had multiple life sentences each. Another life sentence just isn't a deterrent. After the 1983 lockdown, the rates of assault and murder dropped significantly. It was one of the safest prisons to work at in the federal system until 2006 when it opened back up when its mission changed. In case you're wondering, Fountain's dead, and Silverstein, he's dropped dead too. And he was held in a control unit-like cell at the ADX in Florence, Colorado. And I hear Fountain became a monk and a devoted Christian before he died. The root causes of all this was because Cadillac Smith was murdered in H Unit on September the 27th, 1982. He was the leader of the DC Blacks at the time of his murder. This was a very, very short history of the Supermax model. I have other videos on the subject, and please feel free to view them. This video is mostly concerning Smith. Cadillac came from Washington, D.C., where he was born in 1943. Most of the blacks I have met from the D.C. area believe that they are descendants from the people of Morocco. Not the French colony Morocco, but the era long before that, the slave era. Most believe that they can trace their heritage to those enslaved people who were captured and brought to America in chains. This gives them their name, Moors, which you can hear all the time from those guys. Generally, they believe this history gives them legal rights because the USA and Morocco had some treaties in the early 1700s. They also think that the slave history killed off the weak and that they are stronger today because only the strong survived the experience. I have it on good authority that Cadillac had a 2-foot-long shank, and the use of it was passed down in his family from times long ago, and the origins of using the edge weapon have been lost in the mists of today's modern society. In April and May of 1972, he was charged with shooting to death a suspected drug pusher, shooting and wounding a second man in an alley off of T Street Northwest, kidnapping and robbing a gambler, and fatally shooting a man in front of a street full of witnesses in a carry-out restaurant. The murder charge was involving the suspected drug pusher was dropped, and he wasn't charged with that killing. It's in D.C., by the way. In June 1972, Smith was charged with murdering a man at a party in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. He was later arrested at Kingsport, Tennessee. Smith was convicted of second-degree murder in that shooting. 1972 was a good year for Cadillac. He was housed at Lorton Prison, the same prison that was taken over by the federal system due to its lack of proper treatment of convicts and being a dilapidated facility. They were so poor that on the night, Cadillac and 7 others broke out of a skylight and escaped to the roof. They used fire hoses to slide down to the ground and get over the fences. While all the other convicts and the guards were watching Monday Night Football, Cadillac was on the run for 3 weeks before he was caught and returned to jail. 2 of the 8 who escaped that night were murdered by guys who escaped with them. The sad part of this story is that Smith is mostly forgotten. His death sparked a 20-year race war inside the federal system. I'd love to tell you the details of his life, but most of the records have been destroyed as a matter of policy. 10 years after you die in prison, they throw away out all the record of your life. You know, it's unless, of course, somebody like me asks for it, and I obviously did not. At one time, he was the biggest gangster inside the federal system, and today I can only find a single photo of him. The records of his birth, death, and family are sealed to protect his privacy. His crimes speak for themselves. Few remember him. Even his grave isn't known anymore. It seems that only his death was important and his life counted for exactly nothing. The only mark he left in this world was one of pain, misery, and destruction. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, by all means hit the like button down there, and you can join us on social media at As the Key Turns on Facebook. You can write me a email at asthekeyturns@mail.com, and by all means you can join patreon.com/asthekeyturns for as little as $1 a month, and you could watch as many as 50 videos a year as opposed to the 12 or so that I'll be releasing for free on YouTube.